What the hell's that?
Scanning. It's some type of cephalopod. Large.
How is there a squid in the middle of an iceberg? And chasing the captain, for that matter?
Apparently, the creature could swim in the ice by heating and vibrating to break the ice in front of it, such that the water in its local environment would be liquid. As it moved, the position it was previously in would refreeze.
According to our files, this species of cephalopoda is able to live in the iceberg and move around in it. How a creature evolved to live in an iceberg beats the hell out of me. I can only think of one reason for doing so. No predators.
Why didn't our scanners detect it before?
It must have been in its resting state, so that it could evade our sensors. I think it might just sit there in the iceberg frozen, with an extremely low metabolism in the ice while it's dormant. It must have detected the captain's presence when he started climbing and began its hunt.
Does the captain have a phaser? Can he defend himself? Why the hell not?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did we think that the captain was going to have to fight a giant squid while climbing an iceberg?
Contact the captain. The contest is over. Get him out of there.
We can't transport him, remember?
Damn. What do we know about this creature?
Well, for one, for the creature to be able to move around in ice like that, even with all of its mechanisms available to it, it probably moves very slowly.
How slowly?
I'd guess maybe less than half a meter a second.
That's pretty much as fast as the captain can climb.
And that's only an estimate. I've never seen this size of squid so close to the surface before, let alone live in ice.
All right. The captain needs our help. We can't transport him, and he's too far from the shuttlecraft. How do we help him? I need options.
For something to live in sub-zero environments, it has to have some way of resisting cold. But to be able to move around like that, it probably uses a sophisticated mechanism of generating intense heat. But I doubt it could do that for very long. Just to get around through ice probably already requires a huge amount of energy. Its metabolism must be extremely efficient.
Get to the point, Lieutenant.
Most organisms that survive at sub-zero temperatures use some sort of antifreeze protein. If that's the case for this creature, we may be able to find a way to inhibit or deactivate the protein. In essence, we would cause the organism to freeze to death.
Is this something we can do in the next few minutes?
I don't know. It depends on what we already know about the creature. Many different organisms use different ways to resist cold. We'd have to ask the doctor.
Jenovia to the doctor.
Dr. Min here.
Doctor, have you been monitoring everything that's been happening?
I'm not playing this stupid game, remember?
The captain's in trouble. I mean, real trouble. He needs your help.
Fine. What's the problem?
You'd better brush up on what's going on.
I'll call back in 2 minutes. Dr. Min out.
He's continuing to evade the aliens, sir, but he's having difficulties. How are his vital signs? Jumpy, but within a tolerable range. I worry that he won't be able to hang on while parrying the creature's attacks. There's lactic acid building up in his muscles.
Dr. Min to the bridge.
This is Jenovia. What do you have to report, Doctor?
This creature has been documented before by early Federation scientists, so that's the first piece of good news. We have the structure of the antifreeze protein on file, but it could take several days to find a way to effectively inhibit the activity, if that's what you're going after.
You don't have several days, Doctor. You have several minutes. Can you do it, yes or no?
It'll be sloppy.
Do it, Doctor. We'll try to find a way to buy some more time. Jenovia out. He's struggling, sir.
They could in fact watch his progress from long-range sensors and could see him struggling with trying to attack the creature, all the while hanging onto the edge to avoid falling all the way back to the freezing water. But what was only minutes felt like hours. They couldn't wait much longer for the doctor. The captain had an idea. He was wearing the gloves that heat up to enormous temperatures designed to instantly melt ice. It had to be effective against biological tissue. As he hung there only by his left hand, he saw a moment of opportunity to place his right on the giant tentacle. It sizzled and smoked, and he could tell that the creature was in pain. He kept the temperature on full. The last thing he wanted was the glove to refreeze and have his right arm stuck on the tentacle. But that didn't happen. The tentacle moved even more wildly and Seth lost his grip. It was angry. Again, Seth hung there for dear life by only his left arm, and he tried desperately to grip the ice with his right hand. But the creature was furious and it doubled its efforts to attack him. It made one last swing and the sharp end managed to make contact with him and slice open his quadriceps muscle.
His vitals are fluctuating. He's bleeding. Doctor, hurry.
Here it is. It's a spectrum of compounds that theoretically inhibit the antifreeze protein by computer simulation, with a dose that has been adjusted for its size, which I only estimated. But I haven't tested it yet. Fortunately, in this case, we're not worried about the side effects. I'm hopeful that at least one of them will be effective at causing the water in its tissues to freeze.
Will it work?
Hard to say. That's what you get for giving me 2 minutes' notice.
Now we need to somehow go down there and get it to him. We also need to bring him some medical supplies. He's bleeding. Any suggestions on how we do that? Any thoughts, Lieutenant Command?
She turned to look behind her. Thorn was gone. As Seth continued to dodge the squid's attacks, he couldn't help but wonder if Santiago was running into a similar alien. He was beginning to worry that his left shoulder that he injured earlier in the holodeck would come loose as he hung for dear life. In his daze, the captain realized he missed something in the distance. He didn't see that a shuttlecraft was approaching. Was it his own? The doors opened from the side and someone flew himself onto the edge of the iceberg and planted his feet firmly into the ice. He had the same gloves that Seth had on. It was Lieutenant Commander Thorn. Before the captain could even ask, Thorn immediately stood up with his feet firmly planted. He pulled something from his belt and threw it into the water where the tentacle had reached up from. It was a chemical that immediately froze the water into ice, even with the tentacle sticking out. With the tentacle now stuck, he grabbed it with his arms and took out a large injection device similar to the one that Dr. Min had used on his shoulder. Thorn was going to inject something. He saw the squid react in pain. It was squirming and actually vibrating as it was trying to generate enough heat. But it didn't last long. In a matter of minutes, the squid's movement slowed to a halt, and Seth realized that the alien squid had actually frozen to death. The captain braced his leg, realizing he was in significant pain. They managed to move to a ledge that allowed him to rest horizontally, rather than simply hang nearly completely vertically. The laceration in his quadriceps muscle was deep, and he was bleeding profusely. He briefly thought about calling off the contest, but brushed it aside. There was no way. Thorn pulled out a medical spray that released the foam that filled and sealed the wound. He also felt the wound tighten on its own. The injection must have contained some anesthetics as well, because Seth immediately felt the pain dissolve away. His leg was mobile again.
This will control the bleeding and swelling in the wound until the doctor can heal it.
Well done, Lieutenant. Thanks.
You can thank me by winning.
Deal.
His leg was still extremely weak, but the medication that Thorn gave him helped with the pain. After another 20 minutes of grueling climbing, which felt more like 100, the end came into sight. He pulled himself to the top and turned on his back to catch his breath. But this was no time to rest, it was time to plant the flag. But when he looked up, he realized that he already saw a flag. It said, Excelsior.
Damn you, Alan.
Captain Santiago had won the race. Seth lay on the ice, exhausted and defeated. He wondered now how his failure in their first mission, contest, would affect the crew's overall morale. He certainly didn't feel like he deserved to be captain of the ship at this point.
Captain Seth, you're getting a Priority 1 message from Starfleet Command.
Very well, Lieutenant. I will be there shortly.
The captain called his chief of security to pick him up in his shuttlecraft. After finally reaching the Dragonfly without even visiting sickbay, he went straight to his ready room. He sat in his chair, still shivering, and with snow peppered all over his face. He answered the call.
Admiral Kim.
Captain, I hope I'm not disturbing anything important.
Not at all, sir. We were just, getting to know the ship better.
Well, I hope you two are well acquainted now. Call Captain Santiago. I need to talk to both of you. It's time for your first mission.